Wednesday, April 15th, 2026 to order. Here tonight is Jane Nevinsmith, myself, David Phil, and Molly Keegan. Randy, is he joining remotely or not?
He said he is. He might just be running a few minutes late.
Randy may join remotely and Amy Parsons is running just a few minutes late. So I'll go through the boilerplate here. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a remote hybrid format. The public has been provided with adequate alternative means of access via Zoom, as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As acting chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time. Is anybody else recording? Okay, no one else has indicated they're recording.
And he is on, so it will not be, you don't need to read the second part.
Okay, and Randy is online, so we'll do roll call votes for tonight. And finance, do you want to call to order?
Sure. Okay, so we'll call the finance meeting to order. In attendance tonight, myself, Amy Fiden, we have Pam Hegg, we have Peter Matusko and Harry Vondolowski.
Okay. And item 2.1, we have an appointment at 6 o'clock, hazard mitigation plan presentation, public hearing, 6 p.m. Mimi Kaplan, Senior Environmental Planning from PVPC, and Fire Chief Mike Spagnable will present the updated hazard mitigation plan to the select board. Public comments are allowed and welcome. Who wants to, you ready?
Yeah, but
Yep, I'm opening it right now.
yes, that should be on.
If you want to see it, you're gonna. I'll go. All right, maybe I'll take it.
Hey, everybody hear me?
I'm just waiting for it to pop up.
Okay.
There we go. There's a whole day of this. My computers are both running very slow. There we go.
Well, while we're waiting, I can just say, yeah, like you mentioned, my name is Mimi Kaplan. I'm a senior environmental planner at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. Been working with the town, fire chief, and a committee on updating the hazard mitigation plan for, I don't know, about a little over 6 months. We did hold this is the second of 2 required public meetings. We held the first one, I believe it was November in this room. And just a little background, the plan was funded by FEMA. The plans are good for 5 years once they are adopted approved by FEMA and then adopted by the town. The last plan was, I believe, updated in 2016. Okay, thanks. It'll be about a 20-minute presentation.
Ready?
Once there is a presentation. And then there will be a time for public comment.
And then if I could, just for the record, Amy Parsons has joined us, so.
Slide.
Yep.
More.
I mean, is the slide going to be shown up there?
Why isn't he showing? I'm like, I'm working through it. How can you not see this? You want to try this?
I thought you were waiting for me to do the introduction to show the first slide.
I came up.
All right. Yeah, so you can actually go to the next slide.
They won't stay off unless you don't.
I probably really didn't need a meeting agenda because it's so brief. I'll just go do an overview of what hazard mitigation is, the planning process, the timeline, and we'll discuss the previous mitigation strategies, the new mitigation strategies. Then there will be, as I mentioned, a public comment and discussion period. You go to the next slide. To give a big thank you to the committee members who were great coming to all the meetings, providing a lot of input, a lot of discussion, and thoughtful input on the plan update. And they also reviewed the plan. Thank you for your efforts. Can you go on to the next slide? So FEMA, which is, you probably all know this, Federal Emergency Management Agency, defines hazard mitigation as any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property from natural hazards. And some examples of hazard mitigation are things like limiting development in high-risk areas such as floodplains, retrofitting structures to protect them from hazards such as flooding or high winds, drainage and flood control projects, and education and outreach such as fire safety education. Next slide. There are some overlaps with emergency preparedness. So some examples of emergency preparedness are on the right-hand side, things like having evacuation plans in place, emergency shelters that would be ready to go, emergency communication. And there is a separate plan called the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan that gets much more into detail on those things. The hazard mitigation is broader and encompasses things like the town regulations, bylaws, planning, zoning, open space preservation, especially open space that can absorb floodwaters. Particularly that would be the focus here. Education and outreach, as I mentioned, and infrastructure improvements. Next slide. So the benefits of updating the plan, it first of all makes once you have, as I mentioned, once you have an approved plan, the town is eligible to apply for hazard mitigation funding from FEMA. Recently, they did reinstate the biggest grant program called BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. So that's good news. And just helps the town identify cost-effective actions that can reduce risk, prevent future losses, and save money on disasters. So FEMA estimates that every dollar spent on mitigation can save $6 on future disaster losses, making Hadley more resilient to natural hazards and the impacts of climate change. Increase awareness of hazard and risks among residents, and could possibly save lives in the case of a more severe hazard or disaster. Just briefly, the components of a hazard mitigation plan include identifying and describing the natural hazards that can impact Hadley, and it does focus just on natural hazards, not man-made. Identifying and mapping critical infrastructure. There are 2 maps at the back of the plan, and there's I brought one of the large scale printout maps that's I'll explain that a little more later. It's showing the flood zones primarily. And then assessing the risk to Hadley, how these natural hazards could impact buildings, property, and residents, especially vulnerable populations. Assessing the town's mitigation capabilities. So looking at assessing what does the town have in place currently to mitigate hazards.
Sorry, it just started going on its own.
Can you go back? Now you're going forward.
God. If I'm sorry.
That's okay. If you need to, you don't have to be on slideshow. You could just do it like that.
And there we go again.
Is it just forwarding on its own?
Yep.
Oh,
I'm gonna go out of slideshow.
yeah, that's probably the best thing. I hope people can see it. Hopefully they can.
We'll just keep it back with that. Thank you.
Those one back from that, I believe,
From,
the blue one before that. Yeah,
this one. Now I can't see. That is correct? Yes.
that one.
This
There
one?
you go. Yep,
No,
right there.
Can y'all see it? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's okay. Oh, I was explaining number 4, which is assessing the town's mitigation capabilities, for being, so that means looking at what the town has in place in terms of administrative capabilities, financial capabilities, education and outreach, and then seeing where there's gaps. And then, so that helps inform what new strategies, to try to implement to fill those gaps. And then reviewing the previous mitigation strategies, so assessing what was completed, what wasn't, and then what to carry over to the new plan, and then identifying new mitigation strategies to try to achieve over the next 5 years. Next slide. So steps of updating the plan, we had 5, maybe 6, I can't remember. I think it was 5 committee meetings. As I mentioned, we already had a first public meeting. We completed the draft plan. This is the second public meeting. Once I incorporate any comments from tonight, I'll submit the plan to MEMA, which is Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, which the funding is funneled through the state agency. They will, and FEMA will both review it. They might request a few or require a few revisions. Usually it's minor. Then FEMA will approve the plan, the select board adopts the plan, and then the plan is good for 5 years. And it can take a few months for that whole review process to take place. But we did just do a contract extension and it should all be wrapped up by October, right? Yeah. Next slide, please. This one might be hard to see. Sorry if this is a little hard to see, but actually it was bigger before you did that.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the natural hazard risk analysis so the committee spent some time updating this table from the last plan and looking at each of the hazards listed on the left-hand side, discussed how big of an area it could potentially impact in the town, what the probability could be of it occurring based on in the next 5 years, not way out into the future, based on frequency of occurrence in the past, as well as how things are changing because of climate change. And that could be from very low, which is less than 1% chance of occurring, up to very high, which would be like 70 to 100% chance of occurring in the next year. And then assessing the potential impact from minor, which could mean just very, very minor property damage up to critical or catastrophic, which could mean major property damage, and then injuries or possible deaths. And then based on those, assign each hazard a number from 1 to 5 of what level of risk they felt it posed to the town. With 1 would be a very high risk, nothing is a 1. There's 1, 2, which is a high risk, severe snow and ice storms, and then a number of 3s, which were floods, hurricane, tropical storms, severe thunderstorm winds, tornadoes, microbursts, wildfires, and extreme temperatures. 2 low risk, 4, so dike, or levee system failure and drought, and then lowest risk was dam failure, earthquakes, and landslides, which were focused primarily in the area of Old Mountain Road, correct? Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, climate change is a factor here. It actually impacts all of those hazards other than earthquakes. And these are just a couple graphics showing the observed changes, so what's happening already, as well as projected changes. So the graph on the right is showing the projection for days over 90 degrees. And this is based on the fifth National Climate Change Assessment, and then the Northeast Climate Adaptation Science Center at UMass downscaled those projections by watershed. So this is specifically for the Connecticut River watershed. And the highest potential could be in the red, and then the median is in the middle, and then the lowest is in the purple. But if you're looking at the median, there could be up to potentially 40 more days by the end of the year, at the end of the century, over 90 degrees, and about 25 by mid-century. And then the bottom graphic is showing observed changes in frequency and severity of heavy precipitation events. And this is another organization, the Northeast Regional Climate Center at Cornell University. And you can see the graph on the left shows, or the map on the left shows it the best, that the Northeast had the greatest increase in the amount of total precipitation of all the regions in the US, with up to a 60% increase in total precipitation on the heaviest 1% of days. And this is from a few years ago. So, I think we've all seen this trend occurring of these more frequent heavy downpours. Resulting in flooding events. But of course, they've also been interspersed with periods of low rainfall, resulting in this episodic periods of drought, especially in the last 6 to 7 years. So, next slide, please. So looking just more specifically at the problem areas and top hazard concerns in Hadley that came up in the meetings were flooding in floodplains, as well as some areas of localized flooding that might be due to, say, undersized culverts. Those locations that are listed here: Aquavita, Bay, Honeypot, Mountain, Moody Bridge, and East Street, between the public safety complex and Newton Lane. And that's not to say that those are the only areas. Those were the ones that came up as most problematic. And then the necessity of repairing and increasing the height of the existing levee to achieve recertification. And then also possibly building a new levee south of Bay Road. Power outages, and then also safety and cost issues from severe snow and ice storms. Increasing frequency of high wind events that can cause structural damage and power outages, increased frequency and severity of droughts, as I mentioned earlier, resulting in risk of wildfire and potentially impacts to drinking water supplies, although that has not been a significant issue yet, as well as agriculture. And then impact of extreme temperatures on vulnerable populations. Next slide, please.
I'm just trying to be very careful.
Yeah, no, it's going great. So the town made a lot of progress since the previous plan on the strategies that were in that plan. So a number of culvert repair and replacements. I don't really need to go through the list, I don't think. Also, receiving a municipal vulnerability preparedness, or MVP grant, to conduct a townwide culvert assessment and repair replacement prioritization plan, as well as another MVP grant to conduct mapping of agricultural ditches and assess them for improvement and maintenance to reduce flooding risks. Development of a stormwater management plan for reducing stormwater runoff. The elevation of the West Street pump station and generator. the Insurance Services Organization, or ISO, assessment of the town's fire prevention practices. Some progress working with property owners and FEMA to identify structures that need to be elevated or needed to be elevated above the base flood elevation. A new roof was installed on the DPW garage, and a quick connect emergency generation hookups provided for critical facilities. So those were a number of the strategies from the previous plan that the town was able to get completed, which is great, or they're in progress. Next slide. And then the committee came up with a number of new mitigation strategies. I did not include, just because of time and space, all of the strategies. They're in draft plan, which can be reviewed. I did include the high priority and medium priority, just not the low priority. So the high priority strategies. So as I mentioned with this grant, to systematically assess and replace undersized or non-working culverts, which is in process, upgrade the existing levee. And that obviously involves obtaining funding, and then obtaining funding and constructing a new levee along or south of Old Bay Road in Bay Road. Then medium priority strategies were to establish a community emergency response team that can help respond to emergencies, conduct outreach to residents about new FEMA flood maps. So the new preliminary maps were released in August, and this is actually a review period now. The map that's being displayed over there shows the new preliminary flood zones overlaid over the previous flood zones. There are additional areas that are now in the 100-year floodplain, or they also like to call it 1% chance of flooding areas, flood zones, which means there are more residents living in those flood zones, and some of them will need to purchase flood insurance policies. So outreach to residents about that. Developing a town debris management plan. There is a template that was developed that the town can use to do that. Enacting regulations that would address hazardous materials in the Connecticut River in a flood situation that would reduce any type of like toxic or that kind of situation. Making drainage improvements at the east end of Route 9, I believe near like Stop and Shop. Yeah, that area. Providing resources to improve household disaster preparedness. That would be for a number of hazards, but specifically also coping with extreme temperatures, and working with partners to implement early warning systems for flooding or dam releases. And this would be working with like the Army Corps of Engineers, possibly First Light, who own the dam upstream on the Connecticut. This was particularly came up as a concern for farmers who need warning time to remove things from their fields that could result in toxic releases. Although, I mean, it would just be good, obviously, to get any type of early warning for any type of flood situation. And then just continue maintenance of trees to reduce risk of power outages. I think, yeah, one more slide. Oh, this is just, you're not going to be able to see this, so there's not much point in my putting it in here. But this is just the map that I mentioned, that I brought a hard copy of, showing the preliminary flood zones overlaid over what's the previous or current flood zones. And then that's it for the presentation piece. So this would be a public comment period. I don't know how you want to, should we just call it?
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Just a question. So on the let's see, the enact regulations addressing hazardous materials in the Connecticut River. So is that focused on materials that have entered the river system upstream and they're heading in our direction because of flooding, or is it preventing hazardous material from getting into the river in the first place?
Possibly would be preventing in our area. So for example, ensuring that propane tanks for staff, in vulnerable flooding areas, the folks that we have coming in the summer.
Yep.
Their campers, making sure that those are, that they're managing their sites. That's why we worked on that policy to have them notify us. We could, get a message out to them if we know that the flooding is coming up quickly, so they can remove their campers and things like that that could impact, the river.
Okay,
I
thanks.
could reword that to be more clear.
Oh, no, I just, that's fine. That's okay. Wanted to understand. Thank you.
Are there questions from anybody? Or comments? Dan? Would you use a microphone?
Mitigation part, the mitigating part is making sure that we have a plan for basically handling wildfire for that urban interface, so houses that can be impacted.
And Randy has a question. Can you make him a co-host?
Forgot.
Hang on, Randy.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I couldn't hear the first person that stood up in front of everybody with a microphone, but now sound is back, so I'm good.
Can you hear me?
I can. And I heard the end of the discussion before you let me talk. So just remind everybody who's talking to speak into the microphone closely. And I think there definitely was a glitch. So I think we're good.
Yep. All of that.
Anybody else? Anybody online with questions? Okay, so what's the next step?
Next step is to probably just do one final review of the plan and submit it to MEMA. And then, as I mentioned, it'll take a couple months for the review process and then make any revisions if they require them. And then once FEMA will notify the town once it's approved, and then the select board just needs to adopt it at a meeting.
So you don't need any vote tonight on it then?
No vote tonight.
Okay.
Just so you're aware, we're also gonna be utilizing, so the bylaw committee, we've had discussions about, because we actually have to review and continue rolling forward with this plan once it's adopted. So we'll be setting up those, those timeframes when we're gonna be reviewing and trying to implement some of the stuff, the action points that we brought up tonight. So I do want to say thank you to Mimi for all the hard work on this. It's a long process. We were very far behind because we went into COVID. The funding wasn't there for quite a while. And then Mimi came on board and we've really fast tracked this. So thank you to her and Pioneer Valley Planning.
Thanks. It was team effort.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
So we've got a little bit of time, so I'm gonna jump down to the,
So that was a public hearing. This one was just you can start it right away.
all right, even though it's posted for 7.
It's not a public hearing, it's just a time
Okay.
suggestion.
All right, then we will continue with the buy board meeting.
It's just.
So we have item 2.1, buy board with the finance committee. And we're going to review the FY 27 budget, discuss the amounts of the upcoming override vote, and review the annual town meeting warrant.
Yeah, you want me to send this around now? Okay. Send it around. It's fine. I'm gonna share it.
So something that can be sent to Randy?
It's on board docs
Oh, it is. Okay.
and I'm gonna put it up
Pass it down.
so that people can see it. And if my computer goes haywire again, we'll see what happens. Ooh, too big. I got one.
Oh, sorry, I gotta, I did that the wrong way. Let's see, then I'm like this.
Go, I'm so sorry, look under ATM. Warrant, I added all of the documents in the wrong
Oh, okay,
location.
there, got it.
And that's good for the public to know too. I added the documents under ATM warrant, not under the buy board discussion. I was just trying to make sure everything was there sort of at the last moment. Okay.
We start.
Do you want us to, we can start? Okay, so we met last night. And we're still not completely done with the budget, but we put the book aside. We still have questions of some items. But what we do recognize is that there are some things that no matter what's in the book, we're never going to get there. And we clearly can see that we need an override. So what we looked at it was definitely the schools. We've listened to all the departments and the school is the biggest dollar amount and there's no way to get there without the override. And also we do see that the fire department, after what's happened, has had some struggles. So those are the two concerns that there's no way that we can address that into this book. It is not in here. We've done a Linda and town has done a very good job in the book in addressing what to do if there is no override with outsourcing things such as a lot of payroll, things like HR. We've taken out free cash. There's a lot of changes that have been made. There's movement in different departments to help with and reorganize things. So there's a lot of movement around. There has been a lot of, since last year, I think when we did the listening session, there was like 9, and you showed that there was 9 positions that they had either moved or did something that were eliminated at that time from the listening when we did that. So anyways, to get right to it is what we felt like was we looked and we said, well, the biggest chunk that was hitting the school budget, we do know that they need more, but we were taking 640,000 from them. So that number was a big number to us. We also did 210,000 for the fire. And we looked at that because we included firefighter, and health insurance and gear and everything else. So with those two numbers added together, we came up with 850. We felt like that was a number after, especially we've been seeing what other towns are going through at this time. So we originally started out looking at numbers and we were started at 500. We've looked at different things. We can't do as much as, we're trying to be as conservative as we can with the numbers. But we've gone up and now we have all agreed when we had a unanimous vote of $500,000 for an override, which would then, I will give it to my sidekick here to tell us how much it was going to be per person. Do you remember?
Would you say that again?
No,
800.
850.
No.
Sorry, we started at 500 and we went to 850.
It was like $85 a quarter. You had the numbers, Peter. Would Paul give you?
Nope, nope, from the tax rate to what we are at now is 11.46 per thousand. For $850,000 override, it would be 12.07. And for the house, that would be of a value of $550,000. That would be an increase annually of $335.50
Annual.
annually, additional premium.
$90 a quarter, somewhere in there.
$30 a month.
Right.
Okay.
About that, yeah, 30, 35.
I had a question.
Got to talk into the mic. Close.
I'm sorry.
Really.
I'll just hold it. Feeling pretty quiet today. So I just wanted to ask the budget book that we have here, this is like this is our baseline, right? And like this would be on top of our baseline. Right,
Correct.
right.
Their discussion was, if we were to have a supplemental budget subject to an override, what would they approve? That was pretty much the main focus of the decision, the discussion that they had towards that decision last night, because they wanted to bring it to you tonight.
And this budget book also has 1.5 million in cuts,
Yes.
right? So my question, and I don't think it has been explained because we haven't really gone line by line necessarily with this. So every department is either baseline or has cuts from 26.
Most.
Most, for the most part. I love the fire department and I want to support them because they're on my road multiple times a year, whether it's car crashes into poles or people off the road. I just wanted to know so everyone else said cut, but there's a $330 or $327 increase to their budget. And so I wanted to know if that included the two firefighters back or no, or what that increase included.
327,000, right?
The 327,000 increase to their budget.
I don't believe we added any new staff to that budget. In fact, we did some reduction, although it does include the deputy chief back in there.
Deputy chief, but he was budgeted for 26.
It's funding that
He
was
wasn't.
EMS line.
He wasn't funded for 26.
He wasn't after the fall
After the fall. Okay, because
And he was leaving.
he was,
So
okay.
we did not continue with the funding for that position. However, it's been since, I don't know if it's been formally done, but there's been an agreement that that is a necessary position by the finance committee, and they were willing to fund whatever additional amount the department needed this year to get through the end of 26.
Okay,
I thought that the deputy chief's position was in the budget.
That's
There was two, and
But it's in the
basically
book.
was the difference of what was in the EMS
Mhm.
line that was cut. That was moved into the fire department budget. That was part of that 300.
okay.
I
No,
do believe it's difficult to compare year after year with
It
the
is.
fire department because that was separated. You had two different budgets. So if you look from year to year and you look and you see an increase, well, you just took two budgets and put them into one. So some of it is difficult it's a lot easier to compare year after year to the DPW or the police because they've been the same, whereas the fire department has been you know,
Yeah.
completely separated. They,
Ambulance supply.
And that ends this year. Yes, it's
Right,
very difficult.
but it's been difficult to, if you go to look and you say, oh, well, they have an increase. And as far as that goes, as far as the personnel,
Mhm.
I don't see that they have an increase. It's just that it was hard to judge year after year. I do feel like if they do have an increase in overtime,
Mhm.
but that's because they are so short-staffed. Just like the police had stated way back when, if you give us more, we will have less in overtime. So,
So the 140 that you're asking in this override, it says adds 2 firefighters. Are they part-time? Because I don't know of a firefighter that only makes, 60,000.
So the 140 is the 2 firefighter salaries, and then there's an additional 50,000 there for their benefits.
So they only make 45, they're
No.
making 45 and then.
Because the benefits are 40%, right?
So that's
If they
down
take
there where
it.
it says 914 health insurance related to added fire personnel,
50,000.
50K.
Okay.
That is their benefits. The 140 is their salaries.
Okay.
mhm.
So
For
142,
two.
so roughly $70,000 in the firefighter.
What about overtime?
Well, the hope is, I
That has
guess,
not been.
if he has firefighters back, that his overtime would decrease, as Amy just said, that basis of if there's more, then the overtime would be able to go down.
Is it on 12 hours or 24-hour shifts?
And the overtime is not anticipated to decrease because we're only getting back to status quo where we're at.
Because I think on here you added like another 100,000 for overtime on the budget.
Yes, because it combined the two budgets, the EMS budget and the fire department budget with that.
Should we do 12-hour shifts? Is that gonna save is that better or no? 24 hours is good? I just wasn't,
That's part of the contract as well, and 24 hours right now allows for one firefighter to be on call and get a fire truck to the scene 24/7. If we get back to full staff, it would be, or what we did before the override failed, we'll be at 2 per shift, so we don't have somebody on overnight by themselves.
So just to recap, these 2 positions are just putting us back to where we were prior to.
All it is it's a start to help get that back to, it's not
Full capacity.
full capacity. It's not full anything because like he says, he wants to have 2, and all we're doing is trying to get somewhere, trying to start the
I
process
just
to
want to
get
make sure
back.
everybody knew.
I mean, obviously they need more and they've expressed exactly, I don't know that we have enough to do everything, but we want to start. We do see that they need something and we want to help.
so the 2 positions we lost were the 2 positions that were hired before we went ALS? They were the non-budgeted.
So it's being actually carried by free cash.
Dang, you got to speak up and.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know,
Please.
I can say it better than I can. Or they-
No,
I think Mike wants to speak.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not trying to be like anything. I'm just trying to understand because I think a lot of people have emotions and a lot of people have opinions, but they might not understand the full picture of how the money has moved since,
Mhm.
2025 per se budget. And so just kind of bringing that together so people can understand, I think would be really good.
So half of the salaries of all the full-time employees minus the deputy chief were split between the fire department budget and the EMS budget. There weren't 2 separate employees that were just on the ambulance. They were all firefighters. So we had 2 per shift. So you had 8 firefighters and we had 1 additional one. So we had 1 shift with the 3. So we were in the process of getting to that magical number of 3 that would decrease our overtime costs. So the way that the budget was being funded with stabilization or free cash, that budget was separate as an EMS budget because that funding wasn't in the regular budget. So that's why I think it's a little bit confusing that people thought that there was 2 staff just dedicated to ambulance. There wasn't. Those were all firefighter EMTs. It's just the budget was split between the two, and we were starting to build up by running the second calls for service to start bringing in some revenues with our A1 to try and start shedding that. So we were building that model out, but again, we were only responding to second calls. Action is our primary ALS service. So that's why I think it's a little bit confusing. So when it was decided not to use free cash or stabilization to fund that half of the fire department EMS budget, that's what is now missing from the fire department budget, half of the salaries of all those employees. And the full salary of Dave as the EMS coordinator.
Okay.
So I don't know if did that help?
No, it helped. I was just, because I think a lot of people don't understand or don't remember how things were budgeted, like, and when we went into the override in the fall, like, we were already negative. It was, we have to have an override or the fire department as its whole is no longer funded. So I think that kind of got lost a little bit in translation when we consolidated budget lines. Potentially.
Right, the ambulance budget was lost completely.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, but then what was left of the fire department is now what's being, it's feeling, there's a hole beyond just having split the two. Because the same people were covering the fire shifts around the clock. So they had developed a different way of covering, right? During that time when you were building up for the ambulance, you also were developing a different way of covering the fire department staffing.
Because everyone's a
Different than
fire.
before we had started the ambulance, so rather than, so it's, was disentangling the two was as difficult, and whether we made the right calls, we could only work with the money that we had. The override did not pass, and now, the finance committee is trying to sort of get that back.
Because everybody is a firefighter, but only some were also able to do BLS, no?
We're all firefighter EMTs,
Okay, everyone is.
everyone, yes. And we were ready to go ALS because we had enough staff
Mhm.
ready to go as paramedics that we would have been able to do that upgrade. So that's why we had our license was ready to be submitted, and then we put brakes on because we lost those staff.
So I just want, so the finance committee's position, when you say finance committee overrides, so your position is that you collectively agree that we need an override.
Mhm.
And in your opinion, the override amount that you would support is 850. And that's only to reinstate the proposed, or well, not proposed, the budget cut to the schools from the balanced budget with the 1.4 million in cuts, and then the 2 firefighter positions, and that's it. So you're not talking about any of the other departments at all. You don't want to support any override that would deal with any of the other cuts.
You don't feel like anything higher than that's gonna pass? Across the board, none of us think $1 million is gonna work.
Mhm.
We think it's gonna get knocked down.
But not presupposing an outcome, because it's ultimately up to the voters. Would you support, I mean, as individuals, you're all individual residents from the town, I'm just trying to get to, because people are going to look to the finance committee. And are you saying, well, we're proposing this because we think what you just said? That's all.
I think that a lot of it has been taken with things that have been moved. Okay, so some departments were outsourced, some things were shared. They reorganized a little bit in some areas. Could we have could we do more and add more people back? Yeah, down the road, maybe, but maybe not right today, or maybe not with this override. Maybe next year we add one more person on, and maybe the year after. We constantly add people on. There are added positions in this. So some departments in the book were losing some hours, where other departments were gaining some hours. So
But those are just the same people being moved around, right? Trying to spread them across.
not necessarily all of them.
The one person that was added was the administrative assistant for the town administrator's office. That was a position that had already been funded.
Right.
In FY 25. And as we went into the budget crisis, actually it goes back to FY 24 with Carolyn, right? Carolyn wouldn't fill it because she was concerned that the budget was gonna go bad, and then we had it again and we knew the budget was going bad, so we did not fill it. But that position is being put back in with a new TA, with the ATA. We need that support in that office for select board, for finance, for the TA and the ATA. And they'll be taking on some of the licensing to free me up to do more of the personnel matters.
It's
Because
been
there's no
funded.
longer an HR department.
It's
And
been funded for 4 years. It's just never been filled. A third position in the select board. It's been funded every year.
So
So it's not a real person, I guess. So.
I was gonna say my only concern with this, and I know that because we got kind of burnt last time. But I think this time we're in a better position because we've proven that we've made cuts, we've made changes. People are feeling it. People are seeing it. I think the 850 is bare bones. I don't think it accounts for the 5% raises every year. I don't think it accounts for anything like that. So I do kind of worry because I think we get one chance. I think we really do get one shot to do it and do it right. So I think having a little bit more as a cushion for personnel changes, I know not everyone takes insurance, but who knows? Maybe additional people might take insurance. I know we have to assume when we hire someone that they will. I also think that we need to account for COLAs and rate increases. So I don't know if that could be an additional line item or if that would be something else in here. But I think people might have a better palette for it now than they did before, now that they're seeing the effects of not having it.
So, similar to what Amy was saying, I think we got one shot at this because if let's say the only option we put out there is the 850 and it passes. Get the schools level of where they were in, was it FY 25, Dr. McKenzie? Yeah, FY 25. And we add 2 firefighters. But then when we see our inflation and the increased contractual costs we have for next year, we're going to be constantly stepping back and digging into our budget to pay these fixed costs that we have. So I think as a starting, we talked about 2 options for town meeting, and I'd be okay with the 850 as the lower option, but I do think that we need to put an option for the full 1.5 on to give the voters a choice because right now we have a DPW of 4 people for a town. And that might work okay now, but come next winter and we've got a lot of projects and things to do. So I'm concerned that we're going to leave ourselves in a spot where we're never going to see another override. And we're constantly going to be every year, where can we cut from? Where can we cut from?
If
And
you
we're,
put the 1.4 back on, that will balance this. Does not include anybody for fire.
is that the 1.5 does the 1.5?
Well,
No, there's no fire in our book. That 1.4 brings our book to balance. That's what we were short in the book.
If you were to add 1.5. If you were to add 1.5 million back, you're not going to have the same budget as 26 going into 27 because of all the changes that Amy has already explained that we've made. We would like to get back to that point and have that level of budget to work with again. But I don't know why. I mean, I think that as a priority, there's no reason it wouldn't include those 2 firefighters. I mean, if you put them in here and you say we need another, let's call it 850, and you say we need another 650 to get, and let's just say it that way, 650 to get to $1.5 million. That 650 will get spread around as according to other priorities. We're gonna have to go back and look at that and find the best way to put that money back in. But it's not like everybody, everything that got cut, we're just gonna put it right back. It's just, doesn't work that way. We've passed the point of no return in some of these changes. We've
Right.
laid off a number of people this year. They're not all, we're just not prepared to turn around and
Well, it's like
bring
the
it back.
Like the HR department, that's.
This is not coming back.
Not coming back. We don't want it back.
And it doesn't make sense to insource payroll and things like that at this point because we have a more cost.
If we get this working, and we're still working on it, it's not easy, believe me, but we go through all of this, yeah, we're gonna leave it out.
So if I can just ask the select board, in our previous discussions, I thought there was unanimity that everybody wanted those 2 firefighters back in that were cut.
Correct.
We're fully supportive of that.
And
Oh,
Randy's
Randy's
got his hand up. Go ahead,
sorry.
Randy, sorry.
So yeah, my understanding is we wanted the firefighters back. I have a real problem with this coming up with a number because we think it's going to pass at town meeting. Someone said earlier, it might have been you, David, that we have no idea what's going to pass. And I think it is very inappropriate to say, well, this number will pass, so let's try it. We need to figure out what the town needs to get to a place where it can function properly. And I think we've talked about this in the past, and that number right now appears to be 1.5 million to get us to a level place without any new hires except for the 2 firefighters, as I understand it. And there's a lot of things that are going to be left on the table if we only run with that $850,000. The past couple of years, the snow budget has gone way over. We need to account for that. So I, again, as I've said numerous times, we have to come with a number that the number is this because this is what the town needs, not because I think you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, will be able to handle paying this. We don't know what the majority of people are going to be thinking now. I mean, I'm on Zoom. I'm looking at all the participants that are on Zoom. These people typically do not come to these meetings. They're here for this budget because they are concerned that things are going to get lost. And I believe that there are going to be more people that are going to come to town meeting and come to the ballot to approve a higher number because they understand that it's necessary.
So my question is, at 1.5 million, so the difference between the two is 650,000. Where is the 650,000 going to be addressed? Is it going to savings for the following year? Or is it going to be to hire other staff back? Or to open up some other things? What is it going to be for?
So 190-ish would go to the 2 firefighters' salaries.
No, we already accounted for that in the 850. So the difference would be the 650 I'm questioning.
More time.
Yeah. We have retirements coming up too.
So there's more time for the firefighters overtime. There are the other budgets that have been cut that you talked to all the people, they were having 30% cut from their budget or whatever number that was. Those numbers will all go back. So it will be level funded. There is nothing level funding either free cash or our savings. That is not in this budget. This is operating budget with no, we can't ask people to take money from their savings to put it in our savings, and we're not asking for that. We're asking so that we can level fund the town from last year.
So I've done a mock-up of the balance of it. Before I get to that, though, Jennifer and Mike Mason and I met this afternoon to address the 850, and is this something that would work? And the two priorities that we would like to see addressed, even in the 850, would be dealing with the snow and ice, as Randy mentioned. We've gone over by 100,000, over 100,000, 2 years in a row. We can't just keep on, we can't underfund that budget. That's not a good process. And we'd like to get the police officer back that was dropped. And I don't even see that as a big expense, because when that officer was dropped, we had to increase the overtime by $35,000 to compensate. So we can get that officer back and reduce overtime for a difference of only 40,000. So we'd like to see those addressed. What we didn't talk about, although I had sent something around to them, and we just haven't, there's just so much going on right now that we're trying to address. But I'll be happy to do just a quick rundown without any specific numbers of what I see the 650,000 covering. We would like to replenish the support staff that was cut in town hall. That's really a very difficult situation that we're continue to work through. We could do that. We could, there's more in the police department because a support staff person has also been cut. So I had some more going back into police. I even had another fire officer at the same, if the firefighter at the 70, we would want to replenish. We've had some big cuts in council on aging and in the library at 25,000 each, which is a big cut because they're small budgets, and they also have certain requirements that they're trying to meet. I want to get that 55,000 back into the debt and interest. I think we have to keep up with our debt payments. And I even had a sort of putting in a preliminary, which has not been discussed, but has been discussed plenty of times in my office. I think that we would like to see Hadley Media get some support from the town, so that every time we meet with them, we don't have to talk about how we can raise $5 and $10 from something and advertising and all that, that he can get back to doing the business. So I had some money in from that and all that, and we're still under $1.5 million. So there's some things that we.
DPW in there?
And yeah, she didn't say it because she and I were going around, or discussing it earlier today, the 55,000, and that is back in for consideration and adding that back into DPW. Yes.
And the select board office as well.
Select board office.
We're just, yeah, we're leaving that. That's already adequately funded in the base budget. So, so there's things we can do. We certainly need a working group. I just wanted to see what could we do with it, because it was like, 5:15. I thought, what if they ask? So I went and filled this in and went through the budget, because I have it pretty well memorized now of what departments I know where we made the cuts. And I know what we have gotten the most feedback on of, you can't do this to me. So, and I don't think what I have gone through probably still doesn't adequately address inspections office. And it doesn't adequately address what David's brought up about that level of DPW getting more work down there, because we have cut that department quite a bit over the last few years. So there's a little give and take among those, but you can put together a pretty solid budget with the whole 1.5 million and keep the priorities that you've expressed. Yeah, it could be done.
The other thing that it doesn't include at all is anything for long-term building maintenance. And I don't mean putting it aside. In your home, in most people's home, occasionally you have to repaint a room, or you have to fix the tile somewhere, or you need a contract with somebody to come in. That money is not set aside. There are a few budgets that are set aside, like we have somebody here at the senior center doing maintenance for the heating and air conditioning. But we don't have anybody who paints. We don't have anybody who can come in and keep the buildings up so that they don't start looking shabby. That's a long-term thing, but a little bit of time, that's not included at all. So I think the $5.5 million is really people oriented and their expenses. Is that correct?
Yes, mostly in the building maintenance person, that is, we're trying to add that back.
I'm not talking about building maintenance at that level.
Accounts do exist. So I think that there is coverage there. If it's not adequate, that's,
That's a different issue.
yeah, but 490s exist to cover the expenses of the buildings. I was really hearing from finance committee, from the select board, and from Scott McCarthy and the DPW. There's that need for that, for the building maintenance person. So when we were going through this, that was one of the ones that I was really advocating that we really should get that back in there.
We're trying to work that through as part of the primary budget, though. So a little bit more give and take in that budget.
So I would like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
So I would like to make a motion that we have an override. We have the two options, technically three. You have the one which is the funded with the 1.4, cuts, but really the two options, one for 850,000 and one for 1.5 million, and that we can fine tune the 1.5 million and we can, fine tune. But I really think I've seen a lot of people, probably 5 more people have just joined online. And I see there's a lot of people in this room and everyone has been holding their breath for like months for a number. And I think it's fair for us to make a motion to have a number so that people can plan and expect and things like that. So my motion is 2 options, kind of like South Hadley-ish, but we don't have,
Hopefully not the same outcome.
not the same outcome, by the way, not the same outcome. And we also don't have 5 precincts, we have 1. So my motion is 2 options, 850,000 and 1.5 million. And we can fine tune the allocation of that.
Okay, motion by Amy, second by Jane. Randy, go ahead.
I think that, we came up with that 1.5 million number, understanding certain needs. So it's not like we're pulling that number out of a hat. And to Amy Fiden's point, I believe that if we just take whatever we were talking about before, spell it out, this comes up with 1.462, whatever, $1.487 million, whatever it is, so that at town meeting, we can say, this is why we need this money. This is what it's for. It's not so we can take a couple $100,000 and hide it somewhere for later. It's stuff we need now. And if we spell it out and people can see it, I think that is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody that, if it winds up that the 850 passes and the 1.4, whatever the number winds up being does not. And I have no issue at all. Again, absolutely, the 2 firefighters need to be back in there. That's a no-brainer. School department cannot be cut to the extent of the 600. So no issue at all with supporting that. But I'm concerned about people walking away from town meeting thinking, oh, well, we did the right thing. We did something. We gave them the 850. We're good. And there is nothing in the budget to allow for any variances. Your own finance committee reserve fund is what? 25,000? That's a joke. So that's $25,000 for any emergency that can come up in a $22 million budget. Snow and ice, we've already said, $100,000 overruns every single year. And guess what? I think we can all accept the fact that weather patterns are changing. We just sat through a mitigation plan. So my point being that we are highly likely going to find ourselves right back where we started, with people screaming, oh my gosh, there was no planning done. Nobody anticipated this. Everybody should have known that this was coming. I want to remind everybody that we're here in large part because of health insurance increases that truly no one saw coming. And I'm concerned about the lack of support from the finance committee. We're gonna get up there, we're gonna advocate and do what we can to try to convince people. But it's fiscally not responsible to proceed with the town's budget in this manner. It's just not. It's going to be years before we can try to get people back to the table. And we may very well find ourselves on a path where, guess what? We're back to cutting the fire department again because we don't have the money. So we need as many people to support the full vote, which, by the way, is significantly less than what we asked for last time, because we already cut positions, which everybody said, no, they're not, they're just, they're just saying that. They don't mean it. We said we were going to cut the fire department. They don't mean it. They're not going to do that. And some of the very people that stood on town meetings saying, we don't have a problem with that. I'm glad that you're back at the table saying, yeah, we really needed those 2 firefighters. But I'm really just concerned that if it looks like 850 is good enough, and you can convince that many people that it's good enough, I don't know what we've done here.
Harry,
I have a question on, you have 2 choices. As I read, as I read the issue on South Hadley, they gave 2 choices and everybody could vote on all the choices. And if both choices passed, more people for it than against it, then the one with the higher dollar amount would be passed through, even if it had less votes than a lower dollar amount.
That is correct. That is MGL.
And I think if people are aware of that, I'm afraid a lot of people might think they're getting scammed, unless you could make it so that whichever one of them got the most votes for it would pass. That would seem more legitimate, and
We go by majority. So if the majority passes the higher one, then the majority controls.
Right.
So it's.
No, what I'm saying, what if
you didn't have the lower one and that many people voted for the upper one, you'd be okay with that, right? So why is it not okay to offer a middle option in case we don't get enough for the higher one?
Well, no, I have no problem with the offer. I'm just saying that I think there'll be a certain percentage of people who will say, this seems like a scam. Like if I'm voting for the lower one, then the higher one's going to get in anyway. And I'm afraid that a lot of those people might just fight back and check off no and no, and not vote for either one, or purposely, intentionally vote both down.
Well, we know you'll all help us in assuring them that it's not a scam, that we're working very hard on this, and we have been since last year. Okay. And that's what these boards are for, to establish credibility for what we're putting forward for voting.
Yep.
We know Randy's got his hand up again.
Randy, go ahead.
So to Harry's point, I understand what he's saying, but I agree with Linda that it's our job to make people understand, and it would have to be very clearly spelled out via the moderator at town meeting how this will work. And since it's Mass General Law, Harry, there's nothing we can do about it. It's the way it works. And if the higher number gets a majority vote, then certainly that's what we are going to go with.
Got it. We got to deal with the motion in this, sure, real quick, real quick, sure.
You need a mic though.
Yeah.
I think you should make that clear tonight, because people are going to watch this show and understand that you're looking for $2.3 million. Okay, so you should make it, don't wait for town meeting. Make it clear tonight what's going to happen, because it's going to hit the newspaper and it's going to be mass confusion.
Right. So basically what Amy's motion boils down to is you have 3 options. 1.4 million in cuts. yeah,
Up to.
up to 1.4 million in cuts, or you have 650,000 roughly in cut. And what is, you're gonna make me do public math.
Don't do public math.
All right,
So the budget right now is balanced with $1.5 million in cuts to the budget.
Right.
The motion that was made by Amy was to have two override options. The first one being an $850,000 option covering fire, police, fire and schools. And then to have an additional option for up to the $1.5 million. And that.
Hold on. My 850 was to be fine tuned,
To be fine tuned.
not necessarily 100% just that, like,
Okay.
because well, for the 850, there's two options.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say 850 as a dollar amount to be fine tuned. Sorry.
Apologize.
Sorry.
But,
And that's what that is, yes.
at the end of the day, what people are voting for is one choice or one final outcome here.
Yeah.
Not combining the 850 and the 1.5. We're looking for one or the other at the end of the day.
Right.
Or both, depending on how, right.
But the both makes the 1.5, not in addition to, it's 850 or 1.5.
Right.
Because we can't do a progression one. Right, that's just how
what the progression.
Mass General law works. Okay.
That's what it is.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? And Abe, good.
I just want to let you know where we were last night on that, just so you're on the, just so you know.
Yeah.
We did vote, we talked about it quite a bit on the 1 to 2 and given options. It was very confusing. When we originally talked as a by board, the last by board meeting,
Yeah.
we all said options sound good, but then I got an email letting me know about if it's not the one that wins the most votes, it can be the highest dollar amount. So, and then I looked into it a little bit more and I found it to be very confusing myself. I was reading the rules. We talked about it amongst ourselves. A lot of people found it confusing. So at the end of the day, we all voted that we only wanted to see one go to the ballot because of what we've been seeing other towns happening and how confusing it was. We felt keeping things simple was the best way to go. So we voted unanimous 1 and not 2, just so you know.
And for the 850.
Yes. Yes.
If we had just one and it was 1.5, what would you do when we got to town meeting? What would you say to the audience?
We wouldn't vote for, we voted against anything over that amount. We voted for a specific item, the specific items that was the school and just the fire for that particular override. And it was for that dollar amount. There was many discussion about going over $1 million, going $1 million or over, and everyone at the table, all 5 felt that that would jeopardize our chances to get anything. That's how we felt, that we rather have something than nothing, that we were worried about that. So that, I mean, all 5 of us, that came up.
Randy?
Sounds to me like the $1 million number is scary to the finance committee. And I'm going to assume because you think that townspeople will, that'll send them in a backwards tailspin because it's $1 million. You said that 850,000 would be an average increase of $360 a year. And I know we're not supposed to do public math, but if we go another 650, I'm going to round that up to another $300. So we're looking at $650 a year average. You know, 50 something dollars a month. Yeah, for some people, that's going to be a lot of money, but we have to be concerned about the town. Molly makes a very good point. The $850,000 will get us a little bit, but it's not going to get us anywhere near enough so that we can add a position next year and after that and after that. We're still going to be too far behind, and we're going to get keep getting behind year after year just because of inflation and our inability to raise taxes more than 2.5%. So if the concern is that two choices are going to be too confusing, I would opt for the higher number. I think that we can explain this to people if we have the two choices, the 850 and the 1.5. I would hope that we can explain that well enough so that people understand what they're voting for. But if we are concerned that that's going to be too confusing, then I would opt for the higher number.
I just point out that $50 a month is like filling up your car with gas these days once.
Well, I also wanted to say that we have, you know, a lot of increases every year to our personnel is about 5%. And if proposition is 2.5 every year, you're already negative 2.5% every year. So that's just something else to think about. Because we have union contracts. It's not like we can just say, sorry, you're not getting a raise this year. We don't have the money for it. That's not how that works.
John, you got to use a mic and you got to make it quick though.
Okay, thank you. So the thing that strikes me about this conversation, we're having a conversation about dollars and cents. It's pretty important one we're having here for the town. I have yet to see a slide that shows me what the 1.5 million would entail. I saw your slide. It's very helpful, but it's so hard to be a taxpayer and have people talking about $1.5 million and just have like no context for it. No slide, like no handout. We're just shooting from the hip, it feels like.
We're not. It's all in our budget book here, but. I
But
think
there's
it's also
nothing
fair.
presented here.
We're still looking for a number to present to people instead of saying this and this and this. We have the numbers right here.
We're all here at this meeting.
No, it's available online on the town website. The entire budget book is available there.
This is a serious meeting we're having and there's no presentation on the numbers.
Yeah, John,
It's hard for us to follow along.
I agree. We have to understand. The finance committee just met last night. The only reason I knew what their numbers were is because I watched their meeting this morning. Okay, so, I mean, it's just happening in real time.
Yeah.
So, yes, I completely agree with you. We need a breakdown of the 1.5-ish.
Right.
And we will have that as soon as we can.
Okay. All right.
But I wanted to
Thank you.
have numbers because people have been holding their breath for months.
Yeah, well, we need something to shoot for here. And
Right.
we have,
Because of the timelines.
Absolutely. And the cuts were made. They're easy to see in the budget book that's available on the town administrator's webpage. It says FY27 preliminary budget. It's there. So you can see where the cuts were made as you're going through. But we couldn't make a presentation until we had a number from y'all to see how it would go. Linda has her preliminary numbers that she's put together. She's shown them to Mike and I. But excuse me, we didn't know what numbers y'all were going to tell us to do tonight. So how could we present something that we don't know what you want? We knew what they had presented. So Linda was able to translate that for the public and for y'all to see.
I'm going to get Christine Markowski and then I'm going to cut off commenting so we can vote on this.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, Christine Markowski, 3 Edgewood Terrace. At the last board meeting, you guys had talked about having an event on or a public forum on April 22nd and April 29th. I understand the thoughts of confusion about what's happening and what everything means. Will that be the forum to clear that, make that clear and hopefully give an answer to everybody then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's still happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the select board? No. Jennifer, could you do a roll call, please, on Amy's motion that was seconded by Jane?
Okay. Roll call vote. Iser,
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Nevin Smith. Yes. And Parsons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so 850 and 1.5. And then we'll work on
Fine tuning.
fine tuning where that's gonna
Dollar.
go. And with finance, and then get everything in order for our public forums and presentations and Q&A sessions. And hopefully make this clear as mud.
It'll be very clear. I think that the rough draft that Linda's been working on is gonna be really great because it breaks it out departmental by line, by line, by line. And I think that'll be really helpful for people to have it really spelled out.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to see the fire personnel back in there, because that is confusing.
Right.
That's that one department.
Right, because you're not gonna get that from the book.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we have it, as a slide presentation, but also a handout for people to take with them?
I will be happy to do that, and I will put it on the town's front of the town webpage, and I will also load it up on Facebook. On the town Facebook page, not the. Thank you.
And so how are we gonna move forward together as a by board? Knowing that our decision or what we voted for versus what you voted for is different.
That's gonna be on the voters. You
Right.
know, how you present it. I mean, if this is what we decide is for being 850,000 and now you want to make it higher, which I know you want to make things, I guess, status quo from last year. Our thought, exactly like Amy was saying, was that we just wanted to make sure what is something when it comes to the taxpayers would be acceptable to them as to raising their taxes. Paul was great with his numbers. We said that when it came to last year, when it came to the 2.5 million, I think we said it was an 18% increase. Then after we looked at it, Paul was great with it. He was not present today. He said that the 850 was right about the 9%. And we were worried about being that double-digit number of what the taxpayers were going to have to be worried about paying. So that's where we were going with those numbers. Another thing that I had some, not question, oh, I guess questions and concerns about is I know there are the union contracts. Everybody is working on the 5% for their raises. I'm in a private sector. For people that are getting a 3% raise, it's almost impossible. And I know we're talking about the union contracts. Do I think there could be better negotiations for better effort towards the taxpayers and for the employees? This is where I'm seeing a little bit of a problem. We're keeping on the reason why this town is in debt. I understand people should be making a decent living for what they're making, but it's the overhead of the salaries that is breaking this town. We're talking about things about people in the office. We have people that are getting 5 to 8% raises, but willing with the person that might be downstairs or 2 doors down, they're getting laid off. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my concern when it comes to trying to manage the money throughout the town, what's best for the employee and for the taxpayer. So this is where I'm having a trouble swallowing that. I figured this out where my numbers could be completely off. If we went with the $850,000 override at the $450,000 house, that would be $274.50. And say if there's 3,000 taxpayers of that additional income, that's about $824,000 that would be revenue to the town. So would that be not enough with it being with that override that we would be having that much more expenses of over $824,000 when it comes to salaries and unions? Whereas if you have the 1.5 million at a $450,000 house of $486, that is almost $1.5 million.
That's what we're asking.
Right. I'm talking about what the revenues would be from a $1.5 million override. I'm talking about the interest of the money additional property per year, the additional at the end of every single year. I'm guessing 5,000 residents, 3,000 taxpayers, houses in town. That's what the additional revenues would be. It could be off. I'm just doing this quick off the cuff here, trying to figure it out.
Are you talking like for new development?
Well, I'm just talking about the revenues, knowing that if we have an $850,000 override
Mhm.
with the interest from going from, I think it was 11.46 to 12.7 from that interest increase, we would be creating or generating an $824,000 revenue from this overall.
Yep.
By 3,000 on the average taxpayers, homeowners with this type of override. That's not talking about those that are the $1 million houses, that are those in between. So I'm thinking about the revenues that way. So this is where my concern was I know to the select board, it's a base model and no one else is going to be, they're not going to want anything else because we tried. You know, we gave this, we did the fire, we did the schools, we're not doing anything else. And I can see where you guys are thinking of this, saying, okay, once we do this, it's a one-shot deal. But I think as soon as we start going to that higher number, over $1 million, you're talking double digits when it comes to the interest, I think it's going to be a no. I really do. So, you know, you guys wanted the option of the 850 and the 1.5. West Hampton denied 500,000.
So Peter, I think the point I was trying to make before is we all agreed it made sense. I think we're all terrified that if we only give one number and it's a higher number and it fails, then
we're down
that's it, we're done.
1.5 million.
Yeah.
Right.
So the reason that I think we were all in agreement that we would have the lower number and the higher number was so that we would give people a choice. So that if there are people out there who say, okay, I'll do something, but I'm not going to do that higher amount, they would have the opportunity to do that so that we could walk away with something. But I think my concern is the finance committee is taking the position that we don't need the rest of the money, right? Because if you're all supporting the 850, that's telling the taxpayers that 850 is good enough and it gets the job done. And there's no reason to have everything else, even though we're sitting here saying that we're laying people off, we're not going to be able to hire any additional firefighters and all that other stuff. I think that is my concern. So the finance committee could take the position that they've gone through all the departmental budgets and again, I watched all your meetings, you know, it seemed like people were making compelling arguments to you and you were nodding your heads and writing notes down saying, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, you know, if you wanted to communicate that to the taxpayers would still have the option to vote with the lower number. But the finance committee's not saying that. What you're saying is we support the 850. And there's a difference.
What we said was there are other department heads and we did acknowledge those. And those we're talking, some of those we're talking some smaller amounts. We were talking 30,000 in this budget. We might talk about 10,000 in this budget. There was some amounts. We still, as a group, looked at the budget book. We do feel like there are some adjustments in maybe this item or this item. It's not that when we saw the book, we do have opinions on, well, you know, maybe there should be an adjustment and there has been some conversation on that both ways. But we put that aside at right now because that is all within the book. That is for after. We are trying to come up with a number that we can't deal, that's not in this book. And that's the 850, that there's nothing we can do to get the schools whole in this book, even if we move numbers around. There's nothing we can do to bring on more people, to other people in this book. So that's where we came up with the number. we are not done with the budget and what our opinions are and what our recommendation for that is. So that is stuff that we are still talking about.
So I guess what you're saying is, as of right now, you support the 850 number, but that could change as.
No, we support the 850 number as an override. As far as if you're talking about an individual or just a department, whether or not we support this person, how many hours they have, that is within the book. We have not, that is not part of the override.
So the reason I said the two options is because I didn't think it was, yes, we're in the positions that we are because people trust us to make good decisions. But I also wanted others, to have the option as taxpayers, it's your money. You can choose, how you want it spent. But this needs to get locked down quickly because there's two votes, right? So you have the vote at town meeting, and then you also have the ballot vote. So we essentially have to have everything together for the town meeting floor because that's the vote for the allocation. It's not just, hey, 850, we'll figure it out later. It's 850 for this, this, and this. And the ballot box is, we saw you at town meeting, we voted for it, we trust you. And now here's our vote as citizens for you to take it from us. So we all need to decide, is it 850 with, 640 to the school, or is it 500 to the school? Is it 100 to snow and ice? Is it, 50 to health insurance? Is it 20 for expenses? Are we giving 40 to the police department? Like,
Well, and Jennifer and the chief will be working on that very quickly. So,
Non-stop, as a matter of fact.
yeah. So, Randy, you.
As we have been every day, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so the biggest issue I have with this conversation is when the finance committee started their discussion, they said that they came up with $850,000 because they feel that the townspeople can live with that. And I don't believe that is the right way to go about asking for an override. From day one, I've always said we have to figure out what we need to keep the town whole. And picking a number and saying the townspeople, I think the townspeople will vote for this, so I feel good about it. And that's your prerogative. Amen. But it's not what we need. Molly has said that if we go 850, it's going to be a very small Band-Aid. And we know how much people love the thought of an override. And if we don't get enough money this time, then we're going to be back in a year or 2 years or whatever it is and ask for it again. Now, there's no guarantee that we're going to get $1.5 million. Maybe we'll only get the 850, but we need to try.
So based on this printout, what you guys spoke about and what you guys voted on was the first column.
Correct.
And that's what you're sticking with. Okay.
Can I just say, as people are listening, I think it has to be clear that when people are going to vote, they're not going to vote for one or the other. You can vote for both.
Right.
All right. I just want to make sure they understand that. Even if you want $1.5 million, you need to also vote for the 850, because if you don't vote for that one and you don't get the 1.5, you might not get the 850 either.
Right. So the idea of the progressive, I can't
Yeah.
really say progressive, but
Something like that. Whatever
yeah,
works.
you're saying, yeah, I want the 850 for sure.
Yes.
And I would also love the 1.5. But if the 1.5 doesn't pass, I'll take the 850. So you have to vote for both options.
Right. And the 850 is in the 1.5.
Correct. So it's not, when we say a 1.5 and we say an 850, it's not, we want an 850 and then an also 1.5. No. The 1.5 also includes the amount from the 850.
Yes.
The 1.5 is the additional amount on top of the 850. So it's not, so I'm,
It's all about the wording. Like Jim said, people are gonna think you do at the 8 and the 1.5, it's gonna be 2.3 and there's gonna be no across the boards.
I hope
So
not.
wording is very special. It's gonna have to be
is.
definitely
there's 10 of us.
how it's gonna be done. If it's not gonna be 1.5 and then, oh, you do 8, and they're gonna be like, what am I really doing here? So they're not gonna vote for any of them.
Well, I hope not. And I hope that people, besides doing their civic duty, would also reach out and ask questions to us. Yeah, come to the forum. People don't come to the forum, but want to stand in a town meeting and filibuster. So please do your civic duty. Ask questions. It's all online and, most people are tech savvy, not me, but some people.
All right, Randy's got his hand up and then we're gonna move on the agenda here.
So to Peter's point, we definitely need to clarify this. And as I said earlier, the moderator we always have a pre-town meeting with the moderator. We will explain our concerns to him about people understanding this. As a former moderator, I certainly will stand up as a select board member and explain the same thing so that people understand, because it can be confusing. But if we word it correctly and make it simple, then people should be able to understand. If they don't, they better ask a question before it's time to vote.
All right, are you guys hanging out for the town meeting warrant? It's another agenda item down there talking about the warrant.
Yep.
Yes, okay, all right. Let me knock out the consent agenda real quick and then we'll go on down to that. Consent agenda 3.1. 1-day liquor license for Leadfoot Brewing, Asparagus Days, May 30th through 31st, 2026 at North Hadley Sugar Shack, and a common victualler license for Pulse Cafe.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by Amy, and Jennifer's gone, I'll roll call it. Randy,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Jane?
Yes.
Yes.
And Amy, sorry, yes.
Fine. It's just 3 letters.
Yeah.
Ran out of names.
All right, we'll go to 5.1 annual town meeting warrant. We have a draft warrant and Mike, do you want to take that while Jennifer?
Yeah. Okay, so your Article 1, which I don't think was in here this first time around, was just the annual town election. So you see all of the officers who are up and their terms and selection for the committee. And there are,
Mike.
Oh, Mike. I was about to say Mike. Yeah, that Mike.
All right, so Article 1 is the annual town election with all of the officers that are up. Article 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are your consent agenda articles. Grants, Chapter 90, short-term borrowing, and contracts in excess of 3 years. Article 6 is the annual one. We've gone over a few times, is your water treatment plant filtration membrane reserve. 150,000. We've done this every year or every town meeting, I should say, for Linda, probably 3 or 4 different for the membrane. We've
Yes.
seen that one
Yeah,
before.
it increased 1 year ago for 150,000, but we've been doing some level of it for over 10 years.
Got it. Article 7 is the article that we're all talking about right now, is your general fund budget. And then we have 2 placeholders essentially. Article 8 and Article 9 for what the potential overrides were. Obviously, we had no idea what was going to be decided here tonight, so this had to be set up in a way that can be adjusted based upon what happens throughout all the discussions we have. Article 10 is the other half of our budget, which is the enterprise budget funds, sewer, water, and Hadley Media. Article 11 is your cleanup of prior capital balances. Every year we have monies left over for capital projects and things that we do. These are simply rollbacks to the town. Article 12 are your actual capital articles for this year. We have set it up so that it is broken up between the different ways of, I don't know how to say it right, different ways, different funding methods.
Funding, right.
So you have your actual capital monies, so your free cash. Then you have your borrowing, which is a different vote, basically. It's not just a majority vote, it's a 2/3 vote. And then what was the
Do you
third?
want me to
Yeah.
go through
for it.
this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
Capital.
Because
great.
the capital, the 1 through 4 are all borrowing, and why they're going, look like they're going on for pages, which they kind of do, is we are closing out prior articles and applying it towards it. So if you see, look at the first one, sewer asset management, that needs $300,000. But we also have prior sewer borrowings that can be returned to the town. This is money that's already been borrowed, but we can repurpose it. So we close those articles out. We use the leftover borrowing, which wasn't spent, which in this case is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ones that add up to almost $71,000. We apply that to the 300 so that we only need to borrow 220 something thousand. And we did this throughout this article to reduce the future borrowing and to clean up some of their old articles. So the second one, the sister capital item for water asset management, that's 300,000 as well. That has 2 items closing out, so that's less that applied. So we have 11,440 from old borrowing to be used. So we would only need to borrow 289 or something like that. And then now in the general fund, we have looking for Chapter 90 supplemental funds. To enhance our Chapter 90, which we're supposed to be sort of chipping in some of our own funds to that to keep the Chapter 90 fund money flowing from the state. This one, $100,000, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 items of leftover monies coming back in to a total of 22,000. So in this case, if we need the whole 100, we'll only be borrowing about 78,000 for it. And the schools are the big winner here. We have security upgrades for 137,000, but thanks to the senior center returning 215,000, the entire amount of this the school upgrades can be applied, can be covered by the returns from the senior center. We're actually going to have money left over from that. The reason we're not, the borrowings have to go towards like projects. So if we have if we have school building project happening, then we can use the long-term borrowing from the senior center, but we couldn't be using the senior fund center and funding from something that only lasts 10 years. So we've been through this with town council and bond council. So we're doing our best to minimize the impact of the borrowing. We can do this every now and then. We have a couple other cleanups that will be when the other 2 buildings are resolved. So some of that money will be coming back in, hopefully at the fall town meeting.
So I just want to be clear because I got a question from a resident. We couldn't just not do this capital and stick it into our operating budget to have less of an override, correct? These have to be like items for borrowing from previous articles repurposed.
We couldn't just take that money back and use it. We could not.
Okay.
We could not.
Be clear.
You know what? We can do that. Now, if we hadn't, let's say we have something, $100,000 we've borrowed for something, and it only costs 80, we only borrow 80. We can bring that 20 back. But if we thought it was going to be 100 and we borrowed 100, then now we have outstanding borrowing there. We have to apply to another borrowing, or there is another process to follow, but it does not yield that result of just being able to bring 20,000 back into the budget. You're right. So, and then the rest of the capital, Mike, is just the 3 items out of water reserves, all of the capital items were on the fall town meeting, except for one, which was the Callahan Well redevelopment. So this is pretty much recycling with some reductions from what came up in the fall. Paying these three out of water reserves, 14, 15, but like less than $75,000 for the SCADA system, the Water Management Act grant, and the Callahan Wells redevelopment. And that is it for capital in the spring.
So are you going to say the question that every resident wants to know and the tax implication is?
Are we going to say that? I suppose we could say that, Jane. Yeah, oh, you know what? This is not debt exclusion though. So, yeah. So it's not going to be a zero.
So you can say.
So you want to say it? All right.
That's what I want you to say.
Got it. Got it. Okay, I hear you. All right. We will do, we'll do that and show how it's covered by our debt, the debt and interest payments. Yes, got it.
And my understanding was that the capital committee voted unanimously on all of these.
Which was 4 members present.
Right. Okay, Article 13 is prior year invoices. As everybody knows, if you've gone to town meeting, there's almost always an article on there for invoices that sometimes come in after the fiscal year ends. There is legally no way to pay those invoices once the fiscal year ends. So the only way to do that is through town meeting. It is a ridiculous law, but it is something that we have to follow. So we have one invoice on there for $60. Article 14 is the employee compensated time fund. As Jennifer mentioned last time, we have several longer-term key employees likely to retire within this upcoming fiscal year. And we do need to be able to cover buyback of accrued leave, sick time, and things like that. This is so that we do not have to utilize their operating budgets to do so. Article 15 is a revolving fund. This is to authorize the school committee to establish a revolving fund for tuition payments for non-resident students. I think Annie, you explained this the last time. If anybody wants her to explain it again, we can do that. Otherwise, we can move on. Okay. The next 2 articles are CPA. Is anybody here from CPA that wants to go over this?
They'll be at the forum.
They'll be at the forum. All right, the next 2 articles are CPA requests. And so that's Article 16 and 17. Article 18, 19, 20. And I think that's it.
So
we have a misnumbered one, so probably 20 and 21. These are all planning board articles. They are, yep, we'll renumber those and we'll fix them. They are planning board, either alterations, minor alterations to some of our current bylaws or requests for additional bylaws which do not exist. Article 20 is for ADUs. That's an accessory dwelling unit. As everyone knows, if you've been to town meeting before, the planning board bylaws almost always get a vote so that we don't have to read the whole thing to town meeting. It's good reading though, this one. Let's see, 20. Sorry, we did misnumber them. So technically 20 is another planning board. That one is a solar bylaw. It's just an amendment to a current bylaw. 21 is another amendment for use regulations. Article 22 is the article that was discussed here last week, the fire chief authority, the revocation of the strong chief statute. Article 24 is the cryptocurrency automatic teller machines bylaw. This is to essentially disallow cryptocurrency automated teller machines in the town of Hadley. And that's it.
The fire chief one, we put it on here so that we could discuss it tonight.
Yep.
So
Jennifer has stepped out. I'm not sure, are you supposed to vote on all of these as we go through?
Because there's 2 that the fire chief on. Or they're not supposed to be 22 and 23?
That must be from town council. One's the revocation and then the other one's the adoption of the section 42, right?
Didn't she want to close the warrant tonight?
She's coming back right now, Andy.
My apologies.
So they have to vote
I see.
on each article.
We can do that tonight.
Okay.
I would like to request that you close the warrant, but based off this, I wouldn't mind having a lunchtime meeting on Tuesday to officially close it then. I can put the numbers in and things like that. But I can review the whole thing with you this evening. And I do apologize for stepping away. Did you already do it?
Yeah, I did it. It was awful.
You did the whole warrant? Uh-huh.
All mad at me and everything.
Okay, great.
What's the first two on
I did. That was it.
I'm sorry. I would like you, I don't think you need to close it tonight if you will let me have a meeting on the 21st at lunchtime
That's fine.
on Zoom.
Okay.
That'll be the only item for that one. Nah, okay.
Yeah, I will make sure that it's the only ish item.
Okay, happy for it. Okay, do you guys have any questions?
I do have something I just wanted to just put out there. I pretty much know where you're gonna go with it, but I just want to, if it was at all possible, you voted, you have numbers now on what you plan on doing. It would be great is if you could put that number on the ballot. So that way we could have it and only spend the one, instead of having two ballot votes, having the one. It just costs money.
You have passed the deadline. The deadline was actually last night. April 14th was the deadline to get on the annual town election ballot. I actually do have I had some ideas on how to move this forward. I'm gonna need to speak with council again because I kind of thought y'all might be leaning towards the one ballot vote. But I would like to do two different. I would like to do an option 2 for creating a ballot. Having the ballot already decided before the vote and moving it forward because Dr. McKenzie has a pretty tight deadline for notification and I would like to have that done as soon as possible. So I would like to not have the vote before, not have the election before the town meeting, but I would like to have it shortly thereafter. And yes, I do realize that would mean it would be about a week and a half or 2 weeks right after our annual town election. But unfortunately, with not having the decision made in a quicker amount of time, this is the timeline we're at, and we're going to incur that expense. I did spend quite a bit of time with Jessica today going over that and counting and then counting again, and that's where we are. So I did have a thought about doing April 22nd. If you called for the election on that day, then you would do 35 days out and it would take you to May 27th, which would give Dr. McKenzie time to do what she needs to do. Hopefully she would not have to do anything because everything would pass, but she does have to notify people contractually by the 15th.
Is that Memorial Day weekend?
May 27th. Memorial Day is early this year. It's on
25th, 20th, the week before. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make this, people are going to be gone.
May 25th is Memorial Day this year.
Is the 27th is a Wednesday?
It is a Wednesday.
Got people on vacation, they're not going to be here to vote, so.
We're gonna run into that everywhere. We could also move it to the next week to June 3rd and still allow her time. And we could do it, we could still do that. So
That'd be better, actually.
I think you'll capture more people. with-
I'm happy. I was counting 35 days.
Yeah.
Cause that is what for Proposition 2.5 ballot votes, it's 35 days to have a ballot.
I think the third would have a better turnout.
Okay, I'm happy to do it. I just hit 35 days and then
Gives
goes.
more time depending on what happens at town meeting and questions and confusion.
But actually,
We can better formulate the questions once we know what happens at town meeting.
and June 2nd would actually be the date then that I would choose because that is a Tuesday and elections are typically on Tuesdays. So people would be more apt to come to that. Jessica feels that having it on a Tuesday, if all possible, is really the best choice.
But we have to have done that by April 29th.
Nope, April 22nd, it'll be all right.
But if it doesn't pass at town meeting, then we're not doing this anyway.
You still have to.
You do?
You can't cancel a town
Can't
election
cancel
after
election.
call it. So there's a couple of options. One would be, we just tell people that it's happening, but there's nothing really to vote on and people can come and vote if they would like. The second option is people come, vote on it, and then you would call a special town meeting again.
It's another reason to be very clear about what the ballot questions are, because if we make them up beforehand, you can't cancel the election. So essentially, they're voting on incorrect information.
Okay.
All right, but I'm sure we'll put that on the agenda to vote on the election day next.
I would like, yeah,
Okay.
probably priority number one.
Anything else? All right. So that's it for the warrant. Do you guys have anything else for the rest of the agenda, or do you want to adjourn, or you can stay, or?
You're good. Make a motion. You're welcome to stay.
I make a motion for the finance committee to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Pam, second by Peter, all in favor? Aye.
All right, so we'll continue on. All right. So then we have item 4 on the agenda, which is public comment. I keep a strict 3-minute on this tonight and limit it to 15 minutes total so that everyone has a chance to speak and we still have a long meeting this evening. So anybody here for public comment, please come up to the microphone, say who you are, and you got 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Mike Mazulis. I'm a firefighter and paramedic with the Hadley Fire Department, and I also serve as president of the Hadley Firefighters Union. I'm here tonight to ask the board to carefully consider the article on the town meeting warrant that would change the fire chief's position from a strong chief to a weak chief. I want to start by telling you where the department stands right now. In the past week alone, our department has responded to 7 fires. That's 7. Our members are exhausted, came back in and did it again because that's who they are and that's what they do for this community. Over the past year and a half, this department has faced serious financial and staffing challenges. Our full-time force alone has been reduced by more than 50%. In a few months, we will be searching for a new fire chief due to an upcoming retirement, a well-deserved retirement. This department needs to continue to be led by a credentialed, experienced fire service professional. So I ask you, what qualified fire service leader is going to accept this position? What person is going to walk into a department that has gone through what ours has, take the responsibility of rebuilding it and stabilizing it, and doing so knowing they can be removed at will at any time with no hearing required and no cause needed? The answer is simple. The best candidates won't even apply, and this community deserves the best. Under a strong chief, the select board remains full oversight. You still appoint the chief, you still control the budget. The difference is the person running this fire department is also a professional, not a political appointee whose job security depends on keeping elected officials happy rather than keeping the community safe. I'm not here to be adversarial. I'm here because I love this department and I love this community. My members sitting in the corner are here for that reason as well. We prove it every single day. But I'm urging you, please do not place this article on the town meeting warrant without fully understanding what it means for the future of this department. This department is tired and being held together by very thin string. That string is the dedication of the men and women who show up every day and the professional leadership structure that allows us to do our jobs. Please don't be the ones to cut it. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment?
Jeff Moriarty, 119 Mount Warner Road, also on the Hadley Fire Department.
You got to speak up just a little bit.
Also on the Hadley Fire Department. I've been on the fire department for 14 years. I was at the town meeting in 2013 when we went over this exact warrant article already. To choose to have the chief, a strong chief. It was on the article as 42A, and the townspeople came in and said, we want a strong chief. I now ask why we go backwards when we, the people of the town of Hadley, used our given right to vote as town citizens to gave you guys a clear edict as local government to have a strong chief, and why you want to revoke that.
You know, we can't answer when it's public comment, right?
Why not?
Because it's public comment.
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's what open meeting law says. We can't respond to any public comments. It's to put it out there, but we can't have a debate.
Well, and now you know my opinion.
Yep. Anybody else for?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to make sure that folks understand what the weak chief law actually states. As I'm not sure if folks have been able to get online to see that, but again, this was adopted as the strong chief was adopted in 2013 as I became the first full-time chief. And 42A reads as follows. In towns which accept this section or have accepted corresponding provisions of earlier laws, there shall be a fire department established under the direction of the selectmen, who shall appoint a chief of the fire department and such other officers and firemen as they deem necessary, and fix their compensation in an amount not in the aggregate exceeding the annual appropriation therefore. The selectmen may make suitable regulations governing the fire department and the officers and firemen thereof, and in towns which are not subject to Chapter 31 may remove the chief and other officers and firemen at pleasure. The chief of the fire department shall be in immediate control of the town property used by the department and of the officers and firemen who shall obey his orders. Michael Mazulis brought up some very good points as to the strong chief side, but the benefit of having a strong chief is it takes the politics out of the position. The expert runs the fire department. The chief can be held accountable for the operations of the fire department. I report to the select board every year. Contrary to popular belief, the chief is not appointed for life. The fire chief is appointed by the select board. So you have the oversight of who you would be putting into that position. I've expressed my concerns on this. It would be very detrimental in finding yourself a quality candidate upon my retirement. So I would highly request that you reconsider putting this weak chief position back into place. Thank you.
Also Dylan Barstow-Mans has his hand raised.
Let's go with Bill first and then.
Sure.
Bill and 17 High Meadow Road. These quick points. The first one is I respect with all the meetings we've been going to in the last 90 days, I respect the role of the chair, the judgment of the chair and finance committee, select board meetings about how to run the meeting. I would observe that tonight was another example where I find it a bit awkward during the discussion about the choices of the ballots, the amount of money and so forth. They took some public comment. And that was strange to me because we've been going to all these meetings and I've been sitting, keeping quiet, respecting when the chair says there's now time for public comment. So this is true in finance committee. I just would generally ask that the chairs, respect the rules that are supposed to be sort of keep us all organized for these conversations. The second point is just begging that everybody, please take a microphone to your mouth when you're talking, because you're sitting back here and we're like, what'd they say? So please, I'm begging you, just grab a microphone, please, whatever. So next point is, and this is a request of the finance committee, the select board, and the folks who are going to prepare for the forum. In the many finance committee meetings, and we were there for all the board, all the directors meetings, the departmental meetings, there's this banding of numbers. Somebody will say, well, if we do that, that'll turn in a 9% increase, and this will be a 6% increase. And these are done on the fly. Sometimes people consult a calculator, sometimes they do it in their head. That's marvelous, they can do that. I'm asking for the public forum that none of this be done on the fly. That if it's 9%, it's 9% because somebody can prove that calculation, not because someone did it on the fly in their head. So that's really crucial because some of the numbers I've heard, I'm not a mathematician. Some of the numbers I've heard, they're just not really like, well, it doesn't sound right to me. But you're in the audience and you're just sitting quiet, respecting the meeting. So that's my third request. Thank you.
And Dylan, go ahead.
I'm gonna have to add.
She's gonna unmute you in a second here.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Dylan Barstow, Mans, 146 Hockanum Road. Two comments. First one was, I guess, from watching the meeting, seeing the back and forth conversation about the $1.5 million number and the lower 850 number. I think one of the points made by the select board was a good one. I think the finance committee needs to clarify its stance on that. And having watched a lot of the finance committee meetings, it didn't, I don't understand how we're trying to propose a number that's lower than the 1.5 number. It seems like that's the number we need to create level services. That should be the fiduciary duty that you have under MGL Chapter 268 to present. And I just warn about coming forward with a lower number in case that's viewed as a personal bias or failure to inform. So comment on that. And then the reason why I showed up tonight is the override is important and necessary. It's a short-term gap. We'll still have expenses increasing over time. We need to consider what happens next after an override. We have to consider growing our expenses so that we can become a town that can take care of itself. And so I like to just remind everyone that override is the start of things. And then so we don't come back for more overrides, which none of us want. We need to consider how we grow our revenues. Thank you.
Thank you. Got time for one more.
Robert Adair, 359 River Drive in Hadley. I want to make sure you can hear me okay. I'm here as a representative of the fire department. I'm a lieutenant on the fire department. I've served under Chief Spank Nabel since 2010. We fought to have the strong chief implemented in 2013 because we wanted to have our leader have full control over his fire department and be responsible to reporting to one person. And I think I can comfortably say that I speak for the entire Hadley Fire Department when I say that we unanimously stand against you taking away the strong chief's position due to the fact that not only does it put the fire chief at will of the select board and their whims of what they may or may not want to do with them, but as well as every other member of the fire department, which ultimately, in my view, can put people's lives and careers and reputations at risk. Our fire department has been gutted in the last year, and that's not an understatement. Our faith in a lot of things that go on around here is pretty low. And as Lieutenant Mazulis pointed out, we still stand up every day and we show up and do the job. Mostly we do it for the chief and for each other. And I can't stress enough how passionately I feel about this not being an option. That's about all I have to say.
You got 1 minute of the 15 minutes, Emma, if you want. Oh, where'd she go?
Dragon, do you still want to speak?
Yep, I'm here. Thanks. Yeah, so I just want to say, like, I know all of us in this town feel very proud of our town and want to support it and everything. And all of us have different values that bring us together. But we all need to somehow find some joint venture to succeed and make everybody whole. And I'm not sure how to do that. And it's very challenging right now. But I just want to say, like, I know how hard it is being on multiple on the Board of Health in town and other community ventures and how hard that is. And want to appreciate how everybody comes together with that, with our differing perspectives, and just want to say how much I appreciate everybody's work. and trying not to be super political about it, but I do hope that our town can support our budget to be able to make everything whole, because
Thank you.
it's, yeah, thank you.
All right, so that wraps up public comments. We'll move on to let's see, 6.1 recycling dividend grants. So Kathy, get along.
Hey, it's just Kathy Nelson and the recycling.
Kathy, can't hear me.
Can't hear me?
Got it, yeah.
Oh, got a hold, okay. All right, so this is just the yearly update. This year, our recycling dividends program grant award was $3,780, bringing the current balance in that account to 4833. And I'm recommending that we spend the money mostly on the same things we have for the last 3 or 4 years, which is buying 20 compost bins that we turn around and make available to residents for $25 each. A paper shredding event, which actually has already been scheduled for May 2nd. Paying for the household hazardous waste participation fee. And then I talked it over with the climate change committee. I think instead of trying to buy something special with the rest of the money, like last year, we paid for 2 outdoor trash receptacles over by the sports fields. With our budget so tight in this town, just spend the money on recycled paper, buy office supplies or something. Just put the money towards, there's a spending list, what they'll approve of, but Jennifer's got it and she's got some ideas of how, we can just help out with this money. So that's my report for this year. You guys have any questions of me? Or I need your approval for these expenses.
So motion. Good. Motion by Amy, second by Jane. Oh, you do have.
I was just gonna thank you for all the work that you do. Appreciate it.
Welcome. It's no big deal.
Absolutely.
Okay. Roll call, Jennifer.
Roll call vote, Isaac,
Yes.
Keegan. Yes. Phil,
Yes.
Nevin Smith. And Parsons.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering if every year they have to make the decisions on this and they spend a lot of time on it. I was wondering if this board would be okay if maybe I helped them with those decisions and we didn't have to come in and have y'all do the vote on the $1,000 or the $500.
Yeah, it's not required by Mass General Law. I've never should delegating that.
We get a motion.
Yep.
Is that the case?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion that for future reports that the recycling coordinator report her budget to the assistant town administrator for approval. So delegating that authority.
Okay, motion by Molly, second by Jane. Discussion. Jennifer, roll call, please.
Roll call vote, Isaac,
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Nevin Smith. And Parsons.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, she doesn't like to be on the microphone, so.
And a reminder that Town Recycling Day is on Saturday, May 2nd. Shredding, not recycling, shredding, S word.
Okay, item 6.2, Sam's Outdoor Outfitters closing. Sam's Outdoor Outfitters are closing. They have filed paperwork with the town clerk. They'll be holding a closing sale beginning April 22nd, 2026. So we need a motion to accept the paperwork that was filed with the town clerk for the closing sale of Sam's Outdoor Outfitters.
Second.
All right, motion by Amy, second by Jane. And let me just mention, Sam's sale will begin on April 22nd and run for 60 days.
Yeah.
Can I ask why we need to approve this? They just can't go out of business all by their lonesomes?
They have to provide they have to provide a check or a surety bond to certify and I'm forgetting the word, certify that their sales will be kept and up to date for the town and that they're following the correct procedures. They had to file with the Attorney General's office too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Did we make the motion already?
I made a motion
All right.
and Jane seconded it.
All right. Jennifer, roll call.
Roll call vote, Isaac,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Nevin Smith,
Yes.
and Parsons.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. 7.1 employee appointment. Nate Malloy, Town Administrator, and I see he's hiding back in the back of the room. And so this is all fully approved by both parties?
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
this is the final.
All right, so this is a final draft of our new town administrator's contract, and you've seen it and approved it, so we just have to vote on it, and then we can all sign and then congratulate you. But if you want to take a second, quickly introduce yourself, for those that haven't met you.
Sure. Nate Malloy. I work in Amherst. I've worked there for almost 20 years. I applied last year when Hadley did a search, and they reached back out, and I'm still interested. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work with Hadley and the select board and the community. I grew up in Western Mass. I live in South Deerfield right now with my family. I plan to stay in Hadley and in the area, and this is where my home is. So thank you.
All right. And so if I could get a motion to approve this contract.
Approved contract. The agreement.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by Amy. Any other discussion on this? And then your start date is May 11th?
May 11th.
Okay. Chief is excited about that.
You're getting a house when this is over.
Jennifer, roll call?
Roll call vote, Isaac,
Yes.
Keegan. Yes. Bill,
Yes.
Nevin Smith.
Yes.
And Parsons.
All right.
We've already scheduled his first meeting.
Thank you.
Well, congrats.
Congratulations, Nate.
All right, so we'll get that signed and official. 8.1.
You don't want to shake hands then?
Oh, you want to shake hands? Sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to move things along, Jennifer.
This is a momentous occasion.
Well, it's two things.
Where's the hug?
On his first day.
Always do that formality for the big.
Yeah. All right, so 8.1 Town Administrator's Report and Town Project Updates.
Okay, I only have a few alterations and changes, updates to give you. All the employee things are all the same as they was. We are moving forward, as I mentioned last week, with the Silver Jackets program restarting, looking at, this is for the levy. We have a meeting set for May 13th with all the parties that we need to talk to keep that project moving. I have some amazing news from Senator Comerford's office that the environmental bond bill is going to be voted on, I believe, in the next couple of weeks. And she has added an earmark. Don't get too excited yet. I don't know where it's going to end up. But she has added an earmark for us, specifically for the Hadley levy. Not less than $1.5 million shall be expended for the design, repair, rehabilitation, reinforcement, and fortification of the levee and other infrastructure in the town of Hadley to mitigate flood risk from the Connecticut River. So this is huge if we were to get something like this. And I've spoken to her a couple of times since she informed us that she was putting this earmark in. Telling her how grateful we are and offering any help she might need to get this through. And I will report back when we hear what the vote is. So that's
Can I just?
absolutely. That's all I
So,
have.
yeah, I just want to, I don't think people always appreciate the work, especially in the times we're in now, right? Think about quote unquote politicians and public servants, but the work that our legislative delegation does on our behalf is nothing short of amazing. And when you talk to towns across the Commonwealth, not everybody has this experience. So I am just forever grateful for Senator Comerford's office and, our representatives as well. Omar Gomez currently, prior to that, Dan Carey, John Sybeck. They've just all been amazing and I just want that to go noticed.
That was all I had for the report. I saved the best for last, so.
All right. Announcements, 10.1. Go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have a relatively long list of condolences. So tonight, on behalf of the select board, I'd like to express condolences to the following individuals' families and loved ones. All of them either were Hadley residents or had very strong ties to the town of Hadley. So the list starts with Norma Ritter, James Foran, Vera West Davis, William Lackey, Sandra Knightley, Edward Tuner West, and Patricia Bordeaux. So again, condolences on behalf of the select board.
And I have an announcement from, I believe this is the Climate Change Committee that puts this on for Hadley Cleanup Day, which will be April 25th. And Jennifer, is there a link for this on the homepage?
Absolutely, there is, and it's also in the town's Facebook page.
Okay, so if you would like to participate in the cleanup day, go sign up on the forum so they can let Solid Waste Solutions know how many people are participating and how much trash they're going to be bringing in. Any other announcements?
Memorial Day parade. Town meetings on May 7th,
Town meeting, May 7th.
forum, override forum on the 22nd, and public forum for the annual town meeting on April 29th, both here at 7 p.m. and town meetings on May 7th at Hopkins Academy at 7 p.m. And there will be childcare.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No, but I'll make a motion if you want me to.
Sounds good to me.
I make a motion that we move into executive session pursuant to open meeting law, chapter 30A, section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for potential negotiations with the non-union personnel. In this case, it'll be the fire chief. We will not be reconvening an open session tonight.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Amy, second by Jane. As acting chair of the Hadley Select Board, I state that the board has moved and seconded to enter into executive session, and that I state that discussing the matter in open session will have a detrimental impact on the bargaining position of the town of Hadley. Jennifer, roll call, please.
Roll call vote, Isaac,
Yes.
Keegan. Yes. Phil,
Yes.
Nevin Smith. Yes.